Hello and welcome back to the channel, and this is my reaction to the UFC Fight Night. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady, which just finished in London. I missed a couple of fights, and yeah, we're just gonna go quickly over the night, and then we'll call it a day, I guess. So we start off the night. You started off the night, I guess, because I missed it. With the lightweights, Guram Kutateladze versus Kai Fernandez. Kai Fernandez won by unanimous decision. I think I was picking Fernandez to win by TKO. Yep, I was picking him to win by TKO, but we got the UD. So, victory. We move on, since we didn't watch the fight anyways. Nathan Fletcher versus Skowlin Loughlin. I thought that Fletcher would come out a little bit, but he lost a split decision. So I have to watch that fight. I'm really excited to watch back. To see why it's a split decision. I hope it's not the same way he went out in tough, that he was too patient and accepting in bad positions. But I have to watch that fight back. I'll see. You already know. We move on. Women's strawweight, we had Shauna Bannon versus Puya Tomar. I was picking Puya Tomar to win. I think by submission. By decision. But Shauna Bannon pulled off the armbar in the second round and got the first finish of the night, I think. No? Yep. First finish of the night. We move on. In the middleweight division, I saw the last 2 minutes, I think, of this fight. Christian Leroy Duncan versus Andrei Pulyaev. Middleweight clash, and the rest, what I saw from the fight was Christian Leroy Duncan just rushing Andrei Pulyaev and trying to hit him as hard as he can, and Pulyaev kind of taking it whenever he got hit. Yeah, so bad night for Pulyaev, and Christian Leroy Duncan got, I think, the most lopsided decision of the night. Let me check that. I think he got a mistake. No, kinda, yes, but he got only one 30-26. I thought I heard more, but he got two 27s and a 30-26. So pretty dominant performance, but I only saw the tail end of it. First fight of the night that I actually watched. Heavyweights, Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin, and the first fight I actually forgot to put in the result. Let me just do that quickly. 1 second, I'll be right there. All right, let's move a bit. Okay, here we go. Should work now. Yeah. There we go. Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin. All right, let's talk about this fight. I thought it was a very, very close first round. Mick Parkin seemed to be hitting a little bit harder. Like Marcin Tybura had a little bit more volume, but his punches and kicks didn't seem to have too much steam on it. Mick Parkin's, seemed a little bit stiffer, I'd say. He also was more boxing, while Tybura was more like implementing more kicks than Parkin did. I had in the first round, I had Tybura winning with volume and a takedown right at the end of the round. He didn't do much with it. It was like last 10 seconds. I usually don't give a shit about that if it has no impact on the round, unless it's very, very close, and I thought it was very, very close. And since he ended in a in top position. It wasn't that dominant, but it was a top position, and he had secured it. I gave the first round very narrowly to Tybura. The second round was very surprising to me because it was mostly top control from Parkin. There was one moment where he threatened, I think, with a was it a guillotine? Let me think. Yeah, I think it was a guillotine. Where he was a little bit threatening with the submission. Other than that, he was mostly just controlling from the top and hitting him with some, like, not the heaviest shots, but also not the lightest, I imagine. I gave the second to Parkin, easy. The third round was again very, very close. And Tybura had a little bit more output. So I actually gave the third to Tybura, just based on a little bit more activity. To be honest, I was a little bit surprised when it was not a split decision, because I thought the rounds that Tybura won were very, very close, and the round that Parkin won was very dominant. So I thought there might be at least one judge swinging towards Parkin, but there wasn't tonight. So yeah, as I said, I judged it the same way. I had it 29-28 towards Tybura, and we move on. Flyweights, we had Loney Kavanaugh. Somehow that's pronounced Loney, or that's his nickname, but everyone called him Loney, so I'm gonna do that from now on too. Loney Kavanaugh versus Felipe dos Santos. I had Kavanaugh winning, I think by by decision. I had him winning by decision, which turned out to be true. But we'll move into the fight and analyze it round by round. It was back and forth in the stand-up, but there was a lot more damage inflicted by Dos Santos. I think he threw a spinning elbow that cut Kavanaugh open on his skull, I think, right, like on his hairline that you partially blocked by my headphones, but you know the part was cut right here and looked like it was bleeding pretty badly, so I don't know if the cut was big or it was deep or just hit an unlucky spot, I don't know, but from that point on he was bleeding a lot. So I gave the first round to Dos Santos just by inflicting a little bit more damage. Other than that was kind of a toss-up in my opinion. In the second round, Kavanaugh hurts him on the feet, turns it into a takedown, and just dominates from top. Dos Santos, I have to admit, he threw some nasty elbows from the bottom. But Kavanaugh was really kind of staying safe. He was his top style was kind of impressive, I thought, because he was just leaning back, and whenever he was hitting him with short hammer fists from the bottom, he was just leaning into them because he knew there was not much in it, and he can just take a billion of those. So he just always nodded into them to just probably protect his eyes and, yeah, actually expose his cut every time. But yeah, he was bleeding even more probably right after. But you can't. His tendency is a good one to block shots that are coming to your face with the top of your head, especially if it's a shot that's not with too much steam behind it. So I was really impressed with Kavanaugh's top game. Dos Santos threatened with some elbows. He tried a couple of triangle submissions, and he threw a whole lot of illegal upkicks, I have to say. I was very surprised that he did not take a point, because I think there was another instant where he had his toes in the fence. To his defense, I have to say, I think depending on your position, it's really, really hard not to have your toes interlock in the fence. because when your ass is towards the fence, you have the ball of your feet towards the fence, and you can just push off like this. But if it's the other way around, automatically your toes will go into the fence when you're trying to kick off the fence. There's probably a couple of guys that do it to cheat, but I'm guessing that most of them just try to kick off and somehow their toes just slip into the cracks. And yeah, it's a weird rule. I don't think the cage, I think the cage could use a little bit of improvement in that area, especially since we see so much fighting along the fence lately. Well, moving on. As I said, I gave the second round to Kavanaugh because it was just dominant from top. The third round was rather uneventful. I thought it was just a little bit more activity and control by Kavanaugh. So I gave the third to Kavanaugh. Let me just recheck what the judges gave. Yeah, and also the same thing as the last fight. I was surprised that all judges saw it the same, and in my eyes, correctly 29-28 towards Lonnie Kavanaugh. We had until that point, we had pretty good judging, but as I said, I didn't watch the first fight, so I can't say for sure about the first couple of fights if the judging was fine there too. But in the fights until that point I was very happy with the judging. But we move on. Lightweights, Jai Herbert versus Chris Padilla. And now you'll realize why I stopped myself from completing my sentence just a second ago. Because we had a very, very slow start. I thought Padilla controlled the last minute of the first round, why I gave the first round to Padilla. The second round was more output from Herbert, but still a very, very slow pace. In the third, I had even more output and also more damage from Herbert. So I gave the third round to Herbert as well. And then the judges had it as a split decision towards Padilla. And I disagree. I don't think it's a robbery. I think there's the first round. Actually, I think the first round you could have given to Herbert as well. But I gave it to Padilla. The second, probably the second. They probably gave him the second. But I thought Herbert had a little bit more output, and his shots were bigger. And he was trying to, whenever Herbert was going in, it looked like he was going in for the kill, you know what I mean? So, in my eyes, Herbert should have won that fight tonight, but he didn't. As I said, it was very close. There was two very, very close rounds, so I wouldn't call it a robbery. But yeah, in my eyes, Jai Herbert won that fight. We move on. Main card started with the featherweights. We had Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charrière. And that's one of the fights where, in hindsight, I'm really proud of my prediction. Because I thought that Wood will manage an early storm and start to take over and most likely get a finish. He did not get the finish. Okay, I have to admit that. But other than that, no. It was Charrière at the beginning. He was throwing big shots. He was trying to just get Wood out there really quickly, and he didn't land anything significant. So Nathaniel Wood just kept his counters going, and at one point he caught him with a right hand, I think, and actually floored Morgan Charrière. He tried then to submit him, which turned out to be, which didn't turn out to be, but which resulted in a scramble in which Charrière ends up on top until the end of the round. I still gave the first round to Wood just because he knocked him down and he had the submission attempt. Charrière had some control time from the top, but other than that, yeah. Second round was all stand-up. Except for, I think, one small scrambling situation, but no control time for anyone resulting in it. So Wood was controlling the pace a lot better. It was fighting at his pace. He was controlling the distance and dominated a kind of boring stand-up domination. There was Charrière on the outside who couldn't do anything, Wood cutting him off and bobbing and weaving and sometimes giving him a stiff jab. It wasn't that much action, but it was a lot more from Wood and a lot more effectively from Wood than it was from Charrière. In the second round, I also thought that Morgan Charrière also looked a little bit done. Because, yeah, in the third especially, I thought he looked done. Even more activity from Wood, who just took over, but still, that was one of the moments where I completely agreed with the commentary booth, because Nathaniel Wood has a lot of potential. He's technically very good. But he just needs to be a little bit more spectacular, you know. It's just, I disagree with the viral knockout thing. I think there's enough UFC fans that watch a lot of events, like basically everyone, like basically every week. That's what I'm saying. And I think these people will recognize if you always perform and it's always, you try to go for it, you know what I mean? But he's fighting safe in a lot of situations. In this fight, he went for it a little bit in the end, but yeah, I would prefer Nathaniel Wood with a little bit more killer instinct. But he had a good performance tonight. He gets a unanimous decision, but to become a star, I think he has to be a little bit more fan-friendly in his style, I think. We move on. Lightweights, Jordan Vucinic versus Chris Duncan. I had Chris Duncan winning by decision, but it was more, let's call it total domination. Chris Duncan drops him in the first round. I think they had like a 2-minute feeling out process on the field, something like that. Kicked each other a little bit in the legs. Tried a couple of 1-2s. No one hit the other one with anything significant. And then Chris Duncan just drops him with I think it was a 1-2. And controls the round from this top position. And wins the first round in my opinion. Not like super dominantly, not like a 10-8, but he wins safely the first round. Second round was very slow paced. The first round was very slow paced as well, but with the knockdown, it kind of accelerated a lot. The slow pace ends up somehow in a scramble, and in the scramble, Chris Duncan grabs a hold of Jordan Vucinic's neck. And I thought it was a really, really quick tap to that choke. It looked really, really quick. I don't know why. Chris Duncan was making a lot of signs after with weird grips. I don't know what that's about. So maybe he has some sort of a weird grip where you where the choke gets deeper quicker, maybe. But it looked like a very, very quick tap by Jordan Vucinic. Congrats to Chris Duncan. Don't want to take anything away from him. Great performance tonight. We move on. Women's strawweight, Molly McCann versus Alexia Tainara. I said before this fight that I'm really, really sorry for Molly McCann about this fight. Because she was about to face a striker, and now she gets a grappler who's a submission artist, and she has been susceptible to submissions. Also, she had a girl in front of her on a 2-fight losing streak, I think. At least on a losing streak. I don't remember how many fights, but she's on a losing streak, at least 2 when she's on a streak. So at least 2. She was on a losing streak. Not to be known as a strong finisher, and then she gets Alexia Tainara, who came in just her walkout was extraordinary, I would say. 1 second. Extraordinary, I would say. She was dancing a lot, shaking her hips, having a lot of fun, laughing around. Was a little bit over the top, but I didn't mind. And then the fight started. On the feet, Alexia Tainara threw a lot of big shots. At some point, went in on Molly McCann and got her down and just dominated from top position. Molly McCann never had any chance once it hit the ground in that fight. And she got finished by rear naked choke in the first round. Also, Molly McCann retired after the fight because she said that a short notice opponent is very disappointing for her, and I understand. On one side, I understand. On the other side, Molly McCann, the switch of opponent you had when you're in camp and you're trying to specialize for is this person, and then you get someone completely different who is just training in general. I think the person that's just training in general has probably the better preparation. So I hope Molly McCann rethinks this, because I think that she has a lot of following, a lot of people love to see her fight. So I hope that she gives it another go. I don't think that she's going to be a champion one day. So if that's her goal, and that's why she doesn't want to do it anymore, because now after this performance she realizes that she can't be a champion, she's not good enough in her mind, then I understand and I applaud her for the decision, because I think so too. Sorry. But I think circumstances were not in her favor, so I think she should at least give it some thought. Maybe she has already, so who knows. We move on. Weird topic. We move on. Welterweights, Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland. I had Gunnar Nelson winning by decision, I think, because I thought he would wear out Kevin Holland. I did not realize that Holland would actually look this good at welterweight again. Kevin Holland is just a phenomenon. I do not understand. But we talk about the fight first, then I go into what I mean by that. The first round, Gunnar dominated on the ground. He got Kevin down with a foot sweep, I think, and just dominated him from the ground after that. In the last couple of seconds, I think it was 20 20 seconds before the end of the round. It gets to standing again, and Holland just cracks him with the right hand. Drops Gunnar. Gunnar tries to play guard, but Kevin Holland just wanted to drop a bomb on him. And I think he hit him really, really late. The commentary team said it was on the bell. I disagree. In my mind, he ate a shot after the bell. Yes, Kevin loaded that shot up on the bell and maybe released on the bell. But he's a professional athlete. If he was actually fighting to the bell, it didn't look like it. It looked like he was firing that shot no matter what. You know, when you're halfway through your shot and you hear a bell, or when you're like this and you hear the bell, you can still release some force. But I think he rocked Gunnar very, very hard with that shot. So I'm really, I really didn't like that fight from that point of view. The second round, no, the first round, I still gave to Gunnar Nelson. Actually, I thought he did more. I thought he had a lot more time. Yes, damage is a big factor, but I thought it was just too little, too late. It was a big shot, yes, but it was not enough to win back the entire round. I'm sorry, my throat is just getting so dry right now. Second round. Gunnar Nelson was on top, but I actually had Kevin Holland winning from the bottom. He was using his long legs and arms very, very nicely. He had, it looked like he had like a gorilla strength grip with his left hand on Nelson's right hand, because whenever he got the right hand in his left, it looked like Nelson was like helpless for the next 10-15 seconds. And while he had his right hand, he could hit him with his own right hand very, very hard. Which is why I gave the second round to Kevin Holland by damage from the bottom. The third was a very, very close one. They scrambled a lot, but I again thought that whenever they were exchanging, Kevin Holland's shots looked like the more vicious ones, like the harder ones, more damaging ones. Also, Gunnar looked like a little bit battered, I would say. At least one eye was swelling big time. It wasn't closed yet, but it was a lot smaller than the other one. So, like I said, I gave the third to Holland. So in my book, it was a 29-28 for Holland, which also on all three judges' scorecards happened. So I actually disagreed just with one, right? No. Yeah. Right, I had the Tabura fight ahead as well. I'm not entirely sure about that one. Let me check. Yeah. So I just had problems with the Jai Herbert decision. I think Jai Herbert won that fight, but on paper he didn't. We move on. Oh, I wanted to talk about Kevin Holland. Tonight, Kevin Holland showed again that at welterweight he is a force. His frame is just so problematic for pretty much every welterweight he has fought so far, except for Wonderboy. But he chose to stand with Wonderboy. And he dropped Wonderboy as well, so it wasn't like all stupid. But he should have tried to take him down. Which was... He lost another fight welterweight, no? 1 second. To Michael Venom Page. Same thing. Basically the same thing. You wanted to strike with a world-class kickboxer. Like, if Kevin Holland took this shit seriously, I think he had the potential, or has still probably the potential to become a world champion, but I don't see it. I think he has a lot of hobbies. And fighting is one of them. And I think if he was really about it, I think he had the potential, because he can create a lot of power from weird angles. Has a really good defense. We've seen Thiago Santos try to knock his head off, and he didn't succeed. So he has a really good chin. So much potential. I think Kevin Holland has had, in my eyes, one of the most potential within the last 10 years. There's a couple of other guys, of course. But from people that did not live up to their expectations, Kevin Holland is right here. Finally, we move on. Sorry. I'm sorry, Kevin Holland. I had to say it for once. Because it annoys me. Because I'm a fan, and, co-main event. Light heavyweights, Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. Yes. The first round, I thought that Ulberg looked very... It was like he was waiting a lot. He was trying to counter a lot, trying to, as they say, download information from Jan's movement. But I thought he also looked a little bit gun-shy. But then, in one exchange, he hurts Jan, buckles him actually. But Blachowicz pressured him the entire round, and in my mind, won the first round. The second round was a lot more output from Ulberg. But still, the entire fight was such slow pace. Yeah, but still, I gave the second round to Ulberg. The third was a back and forth. This might be controversial. I had the flurry that Jan was throwing at the end swayed me to give him the third. I thought he had the third. So I had Jan winning the first and the third round. Even though the third was very, very close, the first was also very, very close. So I would have even understood a 30-27 for Ulberg, actually, in this fight. But on my scorecard, it was a 29-28 towards Jan. It turned out to be 29-28 for Ulberg on all judges' scorecards. I can live with that. As I said, I understand how you can see the third round for Ulberg. And I see also a point for the first round being Ulberg's. I have to say, Jan did not look the same after 2 years. I thought he looked a little big around the stomach area, while his arms looked smaller. I have problems right now with my shoulder as well, so I can really empathize with the problems he has. And I have the same problem, that my arms slim down because I can't really exercise them. Right now I can do push-ups, though my arms, especially my triceps are shrinking. So Jan did not look the same. I hope there's two ways about this. First, he came back too quickly and wasn't like in peak form, and he comes back after this. Or he sees it as, okay, I gave it my all, and this was the result, and it's not satisfying anymore, and retire. Because I don't like it when the fighters I was rooting for and had good fights, and they end their careers on like KO streaks, getting knocked out, like Tony Ferguson, for example. Like, kind of broke my heart, because it took a lot of time for him to conquer my heart, and then finally he got it and starts getting knocked out. It's really cruel. We move on. Welterweights, main event, Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. At the beginning of the fight, I wrote down and I said that Leon looks confident and he looks good on the feet, and he looks quick. And I mean, not just fast, but also quick in reaction speed. That he was seeing a lot of things coming and dodging out of the way. Good reactions at first on his sprawls. But throughout the round, even in the first round, Brady started to take control with his wrestling and volume, and I gave him the first round. The second round, Brady shot like, it was like the Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen 2. Yeah, the second fight. In the first round, I think, of their second fight, Chael just shot in from. I don't think they touched gloves. I don't think they touched gloves on that fight. No. And Chael just shot on him and dominated him from top. And Sean Brady did the same thing. He just got on top and gave him a total domination from top. I wasn't sure at the end of the second round if you could consider this round even a 10-8. I think it could have been a 10-8 round, actually. In the third was another weird interaction tonight. Tonight was full of weird interactions. Leon sprawls out, defends a couple of takedown defense of Sean Brady at the beginning of the round, sprawls out of another one, and reshoots. Sean Brady just takes the guillotine and ends up on top and controls him for the rest of the round again. At the end of the round, from facial expressions, I thought that Leon was already looking like he's breaking. The fourth, Brady just takes him down again, and this time he finishes him off with a guillotine. Guillotine seems to be a really good move for him. He seems to have the perfect frame to get a lot of torque into that. Yeah. Congratulations. Guillotine submission for Sean Brady in the fourth round. We move quickly over my picks and what actually happened. So we move on for that 1 second. Here we go. Those were my picks. As we can see, I had a couple of misses, a couple of hits. Let me count quickly. 3, 4, 5, no, 5, 6, 7 out of 13, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, no, 14? No, 30. 7 out of 13, so I'm a little bit over 50%. That's okay. That's okay. Those were my picks. And those were the actual results. So we can see, we go quickly over it. Let me just quickly check that that my face is not in the way. So we start from bottom to top. We have Kauwe Fernandez beating Guram Gutateladze by unanimous decision. Then we had Caroline Laffen winning over Nathan Fletcher by split decision. Sean O'Bannon submitting Puya Tomar by, was it guillotine choke? No, it was armbar, right? Armbar? Armbar. By armbar, Christian Leroy Duncan, a unanimous decision victory over Andrei Pulyaev. Marcin Tabura, a unanimous decision over Mick Parkin. Lonnie Kavanagh, a unanimous decision victory over Felipe dos Santos. Chris Padilla, a split decision victory over Jay Herbert. As I said before, I thought Jay Herbert did enough to win that fight. And now I have to switch. I had to switch already. Okay, but you remember the one I just said. So we can move on. Nathaniel Wood, by unanimous decision over Morgan Charrière. Chris Duncan submits Jordan Vucenic by guillotine choke. Alexia Tainara submits Molly McCann into retirement by rear naked choke. Kevin Holland wins a unanimous decision over Gannon Nelson. Carlos Ulberg wins a unanimous decision over Jan Blachowicz, which I think Jan could have gotten, but Carlos got it tonight. And Sean Brady, with the best performance of his career, submits Leon Edwards in the fourth round. It was complete and total domination by Sean Brady. In my mind, breakout performance. All right, what can we say about the event at all? It was a lot of decisions. Really a lot of decisions. There was a couple of fun decisions. But from those that I watched were also a lot of very slow-paced fights. The event, as I said before, isn't that name-packed, but that's in regional fight cards, especially in the England cards. That's pretty normal because they tend to put in local favorite fighters and giving them the ability to fight close to home. Blachowicz is probably one of the hometown favorites that lives the furthest away from London. Like Leon Edwards is, I think, Liverpool, or is it Manchester? No, he's Manchester, I think. Gunnar Nelson, I think, trains in SPG, so at least he's, I don't know where the SPG camp is. So, but he's in Great Britain. Molly McCann, SPG. Oh, Chris Duncan. Yeah, but Chris Duncan is Scot. So Jordan Vucenic is British too. So they're all from or from around the UK, which is fine. So it was kind of obvious that the card wasn't the best in kind of star power, but I liked the co-main event from the star power. I was a little bit disappointed with Blachowicz's performance, but he's 42 years old, so we'll see what's happening with him in the future. Great performance by Kevin Holland. Probably in my mind, the most positive surprise of the night. yeah, that's about it. That's all I have to say about the UFC Fight Night. Brady versus Edwards, or Edwards versus Brady. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you had some fun. I did. So please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I see you guys in the next one.